Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Pleasure to rise to speak on the sale and supply of alcohol extended licensing hours during Rugby World Cup bill, and look forward to this bill being considered by the Justice and Electoral Committee. And reading the debate notes and reading the bill takes me right back to the previous Rugby World Cup and the empowering legislation that this House put through to expedite some of the matters around the previous Rugby World Cup. Having done that, I remember the excitement that gripped New Zealand during that Rugby World Cup as our All Blacks, of whom we are all so proud, did so very well. And those many, many gatherings that we had in New Zealand, of course, they were within our time frame, so that suited us all very well. But I was involved in organising quite a large series of events around North Otago, and it was very satisfying to be part of that, and it was certainly something that people, rugby fans, families alike, turned out for. A number of these fan zone opportunities, see the games on the big screens, have, food festivals, all sorts of things surrounding the Rugby World Cup when we took it away last time. Having said all that, this is not the case for this coming Rugby World Cup because, of course, the time zones are completely different, and we're going to find ourselves having to get up in the very early hours of the morning to enjoy the matches if that's what we want to do, and there are many of us who will do that. And while some of us enjoy a cup of tea and a biscuit while we're watching the rugby, other people like to go down to the pub and enjoy a beer. And that is what this piece of legislation, this bill on behalf of David Seymour, is going to allow us to do, assuming it has a successful passage through the House, which indeed I hope it does. The Justice and Electoral Committee will consider a number of matters around this bill, and I think it's worthwhile to remind ourselves that the Sale and Supply of Liquor Act does provide for special licences to be granted for this kind of event. Why is this bill before the House? And that is to expedite, as we did, as this Parliament did for the previous Rugby World Cup, is to expedite those events for people to have the opportunity to watch their beloved game of rugby. And it is worth noting that upon the passage of this bill, and I'm anticipating that it will go through, it will not in any way negate the current requirements for host responsibility which people with liquor licences have under the special licence regime at the moment. So there would be the same degree of host responsibility, the same degree of criteria with those liquor licences as exist in the current legislation. What this bill is doing is expediting the opportunities for New Zealanders to go down to the pub, watch the rugby, and then I would imagine have a good hearty breakfast before they go off and bask in the glory of yet another glorious win on behalf of their All Black team. I just know it's going to happen. There will still be those requirements around intoxication. So the argument that this bill may encourage binge drinking, I think will not be borne out. Host responsibility acts against binge drinking now, and no provision in this bill will allow for or encourage binge drinking. The host of the licensed premises will still be obliged to turn away people who clearly have had too much alcohol. The point of difference which the National Party who supports this bill has is around the very strong case for these provisions to apply only to All Blacks games. Why wouldn't we be one-eyed? It's the Rugby World Cup, for goodness sake. Why wouldn't we be one-eyed about the All Blacks? So I think a point of difference with the author of the bill would be around games which involve the All Blacks and games which are involved in the elimination rounds, perhaps the semi-finals, quarter-finals, those sorts of things. These matters will be considered by the Select Committee on the very fast turnaround before we return the bill on about the 26th of August. The committee is prepared to work hard. Thank you, Mr Speaker. The committee is it's prepared to work hard on this bill and to return a good result to the House.
Just before I call Kevin Haig, I will remind members that to date this is being treated as a conscience vote. Therefore, the strict rules around the order of calling parties do not necessarily apply. And while my successor is about to come into the chair, to date all of the people have been speaking generally in support of the bill without major reservations. If people either want to speak against the bill or have major reservations about it, the normal practice is to approach the chair quietly and inform the chair of that, which will increase a person's chance of getting a call on a conscience vote. Kevin Haig.